Hello students, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to discuss about one of the topic from ISC Computer Science, that is inheritance. Though inheritance comes in section C part of class 12 ISC examination, whose weightage is only 5 marks, but inheritance has its own importance in Java programming as well as object-oriented programming concept. I hope my video will help you all to understand the concept a little more. In this topic, let us see what we'll cover. So inheritance, interface, and polymorphism in Java program will be in this video. Though this video I'm dividing in two parts. Today's video is part 1, where we'll discuss about what is inheritance, different types of inheritance, visibility mode in inheritance, and some example programs on inheritance. In the next video, we'll discuss about abstract classes, abstract method, interface, and polymorphism. So I proceed further. First of all, what is inheritance? It is the capability or feature of one class so that it can inherit properties from another class. Inheritance a program with inheritance have two classes, basically, base class and derived class. What is base class? It is the class whose properties are inherited by another class. It is also called superclass or parent class. And derived class, it is the class that inherits the property from base class. It is also called subclass or child class. So you can see here in these two diagrams, the animal class is the base class which is inherited by dog or cat. And if it is in terms of programming, then the base class will have some methods and child class will have also some methods on its own, but the child class can access the methods of base class. Thus, child class will be equipped with more properties than the base class. Let us understand through another diagram. Here it is the pictorial representation of inheritance through father and son. The father is the parent class and the son is the child class. So what we can see, son inherits properties like character, color, eyes, and others from the father. So we can say it is one of the features of OOPS. Inheritance is one of the features of OOPS where we can reuse an existing class, that is the parent class, with the help of newly created class called child class. We can say inheritance is a form of is or relationship. For example, here vehicle is the parent class. So cycle is a vehicle, cycle being the child class, or car is a vehicle, or scooter is a vehicle. Now, different forms of inheritance. So there are multiple forms of inheritance like single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, hybrid, and multiple. Let us discuss them one by one. Single inheritance. It is the inheritance hierarchy wherein one derived class inherits from one base class. In this arrangement, there is only one base class and one derived class. We can see the diagram given below where A is the base class and B is the derived class which is inheriting class A. Next is multiple inheritance. Here, one derived class inherits from multiple base classes. So in this arrangement, there are more than one base class and one derived class. So you can see in the diagram, A and B are the base classes from which C is derived. We need to keep in mind one thing here, that Java does not support this type of inheritance. Further, next, we have hierarchical inheritance. It is the inheritance hierarchy wherein multiple subclasses inherits from one base class. So if in the diagram given below, we can see class A is the parent class which is being inherited to two child classes B and C. It can be many more. So one base class is inherited by multiple base classes. We can see an example over here, like if we have account one class and then it is then divided or inherited by two further child classes as savings account and credit current account, savings account and current account. Or employee again can be inherited by permanent employee or temporary employee, so on. Next is multi-level inheritance. In this inheritance, what happened? One subclass which is inherited from a base class acts as a base class for some other subclasses. So in this diagram, you can see class A is the base class which is inherited by class B. Now B is further is inherited to C. That means C is the subclass for which B is base and B is again the subclass for which A is the base class. And the last form of inheritance is hybrid inheritance. In this inheritance hierarchy, we see any legal combination of previous other type of inheritance. Like for example, first one you can see in the diagram, we have A, B, C. Here we am getting hierarchical inheritance, and B and B, C and D, I am getting multiple inheritance. Whereas in the second diagram, A, B, C is one set of multi-level inheritance. A, D, E is another set of multi-level inheritance. Or we can say A, D, A, B, D having hierarchical inheritance, B, C and D, E having single inheritance. Further, third example, A, B, C, multi-level, multiple inheritance, C and D is again single inheritance. Now, as Java does not support multiple inheritance, here the diagram 1 and diagram 2, these two type of inheritance is invalid in Java, whereas the diagram 2 is a valid inheritance in Java. Let's move on further. Visibility mode. What is visibility mode? It is the visibility, it is the keyword that controls the visibility and availability of inherited base class members in the derived class. It can be either private, protected, or public. Generally, we go for public inheritance. Private inheritance means the base class becomes private to the child class. What happens in this case? It is the inheritance facilitated by private visibility mode. In the private inheritance, the protected and public members of the base class becomes private member of the derived class. Then public inheritance, it is accepted globally. In this inheritance, the visibility is public. That is, in public inheritance, the protected member of the base class becomes protected member of the derived class, and public member of the base class becomes public member of the derived class. And protected inheritance, in protected inheritance, protected and public members both become protected member of the derived class. Next, advantages of inheritance. First is reusability or code reusability. Inheritance helps the code to be reused in many situations. So the base class is defined, and once it is compiled, it need not to be reworked. Using the concept of inheritance, programmer can create as many derived class from the base class as needed while adding specific features to each derived classes. What it leads to? This reusability concept leads to saving time and effort. The above concept of reusability achieved by inheritance saves the programmer's time and effort, since the main code written can be reused in various situations as needed. Further, this concept of inheritance increases the program structure, which results in greater reliability. What it means? It means once the base class is done, from their next level of child class will always be in advanced mode or more advantageous position, because the child class is getting add-on features along with the base class. So furthermore, if that child class is again inherited by another child class, the features get added on or increased. So we can say the program structure, as it is gradually increasing from base class to child class to another child class, the reliability of the program and the properties of one class to another class get increased. Now, this is the theory concept of basic inheritance. Let's move on to some programming section. Here, I'm going to discuss about two programs. First program, you can see here, given question 1, two classes named library and issue is there, where library is the base class having data member on as book number, book name, student name, and it has a parameterized constructor and a display method. Further, we have another class named issue. It will inherit the library class. It will have its own data member as number of days late to hold number of days late, and fine that will be calculated. Naturally, child class issue will also have a parameterized constructor. Here you have to keep one thing in mind. If the base class do not have any constructor or have a default constructor, child class may have a constructor or may not have a constructor. But if a base class or the parent class has a parameterized constructor, child class must have a parameterized constructor, which will be used to initialize the base class data members through the constructor invocation. Now, why this is required? Because we cannot call the constructor explicitly, and at the time of object creation, constructor gets invoked. So through the child class object, only if we have the constructor in both the classes, the constructor both can get invoked automatically. Okay. Further, in issue class, we have a return book function and display function. Now, let me move on to the Java segment. Here, I have done the program for you all. I'll show this. So first, I'm working on the library function. So we can see here what is there in the library class. The class library is the base class having 3 data members: book number, book name, student name. And the parameters constructor is initializing the book number, book name and student name through parameter. And it has a display function, this much. Now, let us see the issue. What is there in the issue? Issue class is inheriting the library class through the keyword extends. Extends is the keyword which shows that one class is inheriting another class. Now, you can observe here both the classes have not mentioned anything. So it is a public inheritance. Issue class having 2 data members, specially for issue. Int days late double fine. Plus, it will access the data members of library class, that is these 3: book number, book name, student name. That's why what you see, the parameterized constructor of issue class having 4 parameters. Out of these, first 3 parameters are for the base class data members. And accordingly, what I'm using here, the super keyword, super and passing ABC. What is this function do? Super is a keyword which invokes the base class constructor at the time of child class object creation. we'll create object of issue class, and when we pass the 4 parameters to issue class, it will automatically invoke the base class accordingly. And further, then we are initializing the remaining data member of the issue class. Then we have a return book function, which is computing the days late as per the given calculation, which is mentioned. If the days late is less than equal to 15, it is 1 rupee per day. And if it is more than 15, it is 1.5 rupee per day. Now we have a display function here again in the issue class. Now here again we are using super keyword. Why? We have base class and child class having same function name. If base class and child class have same function name, we call that as a function overriding. Now what is function overriding? In case of function overriding, through a child class, if I'm calling a function of base class with the same name, instead of getting that function access, child class override that and it actually call itself the same function. So function overriding is actually an ambiguity. To resolve that problem, we use super. Super.display will make it particularly the base class function, which will be called instead of calling itself. That is the child class function. And then we have this display part. Now, let us compile both. No syntax error. So I'm minimizing it. Now let us run. What I'm doing, I'm creating an object of issue class and I'm giving, so let us give a book name. Here it's asked for a book. Okay, I'm giving one of the book of mine, Whispers of Realms. This is a this is a collection of 30 short stories, which is written by me and published by Yukioto Publication. It is available on Amazon. If you are interested in reading short stories, you can see this book. There you will get fantastic and interesting stories. All the stories are based on life. I'm giving my name only. You can search on Amazon either by the book name or by my name also. You can find my books there on Amazon. Okay, now number of days late, let me mark as 10. So the book number I've given 101. The book issued Whispers of Realms. Student name I've given my name here. And how many days late? 10. Okay. Oh, something problem. Yes, it's string. So string we have to pass through. I've not done the main method intentionally so that I can show you through object creation. This is one feature of BlueJ where we can create runtime object and see how it is working. So see here, we can see these are inherited from the library class, which method, object, and then here we have return book function being called, and finally I'm calling the display function. So it's giving 10 rupees fine. Okay, I'm not clearing it. Let me do it little small so that I can see both the output and the code part. Actually, I want to see both together. That's why I'm reducing this one. So this is my open editor. This is this one, library class and the issue class. And then we have the output here together. So fine is being calculated. First, we are passing the data in the object with a number book number, then the book name, student name, and the number of days late. So when these all being passed, return book function I have called. So return book is calculating the fine, and finally it is displaying. Here what it is displaying, see, super.display is displaying the book number, book name, and student name from the base class. And child class display function is displaying the fine calculated. Okay. So this one class. Now let us move on to the slideshow. The second program we'll discuss now. The second program is, we have two classes, workers and wages. What it will do, it will compute the wages of workers on the number of hours worked and rate of wage using the concept of inheritance. Here again, we have two classes, worker class having the data member name and basic. This is a very simple inheritance. We are actually doing simple inheritance, single inheritance, sorry. We are not going for other form of inheritance here. Then in the member method is worker, which is again a parameters constructor, and display method. Then we have wages class, which will inherit worker class. So wages here is the child class having data members to store hours, rate, and wage. We have a parameters constructor, a function to compute the overtime as per rate and hours for the wage, and the display. Now let us move on to the Java program. So we have here this one, worker. Okay, let me close previous. Yes. So worker. So worker class is the base class having two data members, the parameter as constructor and the display function. You can see it's very simple code. I'm compiling this one, no syntax error. Let it be here. Now we'll go to the wages class. Wages class, it is extends worker, that means it is inheriting the worker class. Then we have the data member, hour, rate, and wage. Here also again we have the constructor. So we have the data members, parameters to initialize the data members. First two will be passed to the base class through super. We can write here also, instead of super AB, you can directly write the data member of the base class equals to A and B, but better to use super. And council also ask for that one only. You have to use super keyword in the constructor, parameter as constructor. Then we have hours and rate and wages. Then in the overtime function, it is computing the overtime. Finally, in the display function, the wage is calculated, the basic, that is the basic, whatever the rate it is getting, plus the overtime function, which is being called over here, and calling the display function. So let us compile this one again, no syntax error. Now let us run. So I'm calling here the, okay, let us do here. First, if I do only the worker class, what it will do? Object. If we create a worker class, I'm giving some arbitrary value. Sunil. If anybody has Sunil name, please don't mind. It's, then I'm giving a basic salary. So let us give 12,000. Okay. So worker class has the, okay, if I go for inspect, you can see the data members. What are the data member name and the basic? Close. And then I'm calling display function. It is displaying. Okay, previous data is already, I have not cleared. So name Sunil and basic page given. Okay. Let me clear for the next round. Now I'm calling the wages class. Now wages class being called, then here it's asking. So I'm giving another name. Say the Rahul. Then salary, let us give 20,000. Hours work, extra hours, what is work? It's given 12. And the rate is given 250 per hour. Okay. Now, if I inspect here, see, inspect, see, I'm getting here how much? We are getting 5 data members. From that, name and basic is coming from the base class, that is the worker, and remaining 3, the child class having its own. That means what happened? Child class here having more feature. You can see here the base class object. If I inspect, only 2 data members, whereas child class object, we have 5 data members. So it is getting increased. Now here, what I'm doing, I'm calculating the overtime will be automatically calculated by the display part. So I'm calling the display part. Excuse me. So the name Rahul, basic pay 20,000, number of hours worked overtime, rate, and it is getting total value. So now if I open this code and let us see the output together side by side simultaneously. So we can see here how inheritance is working. I hope you have understood the concept. Base class, how it is working, child class. In ISC, you have to only concentrate upon the child class. You don't have to write the base class method there. Nothing. It's assumed that it has been created. But you have to keep it in mind. If base class has a parameter as constructor, then child class must have a parameter as constructor. And in the child class, we need to call the base class constructor using super keyword and pass the data for it should be the first line in the constructor. Then the remaining data members will be assigned in the child class through the constructor. This is very, very important. Now let's back to the PowerPoint. So this all you have understood. That's all from my end. Thank you. In the next video, we'll discuss about the remaining portion of the inheritance concept, that is abstract class and interface. Then, bye-bye. Take care and all the best for your exams. Thank you for watching.